Yeah, well, thanks for being here, Corey.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me, boys.
the short Corona was great. How'd that gig happen?
It was I've been a huge fan of Blackberry Smoke. I've said it 1,000 times, but they're like the Beatles for me. I heard their music and it kind of set me on a trajectory. And just I've eaten alive everything they've done. It's the music I grew up on, but it's kind of a I say modern very loosely, but it's kind of a modern take on Southern rock. And those boys respect the classic ways and the traditions, but they're carving their own path. But as far as landing those shows, there was a little bit of talk from our agents about possibly getting on board, and I said to them, "You got to lay it all out. If there's any way this could happen, make sure it happens." And so um, we originally they're thinking about putting us on a couple shows, on two of the shows, and now I think the Corona Theater was a Thursday night, so it was Wednesday afternoon. I got a phone call from our agent, and I'm a barber, so I was in the middle of a haircut, and I seen the number come up, so I grabbed it, and he said the shows are going to happen, but we got I got something to tell you about them. I said, what's that? He goes, we're wondering if you could add two more shows with them, and if there's any way you could be in Montreal, tomorrow by noon. And I said, well, I'll start walking right now, but yeah, we'll be in Montreal tomorrow noon. So, yeah, so it just kind of all happened and snowballed from there. And, the next thing you know, we were rolling into Montreal, ironically to the Corona Theater.
Yeah.
And that was I think the last night of live music
Yeah.
in Quebec.
It
And
was.
that was a great night. That was a great show. I've been to Montreal. I haven't traveled too much in my life, but Montreal is one place where I've been a couple times, and I love the city. And it was a great reaction from the crowd. It was our first time playing out of province, so we felt like Cinderella of the ball that night.
Cool. I think there was a lot of Americans in the crowd that night
Yeah.
as well.
That drove up from Vermont, New York,
Maine.
Yeah, I've actually some have reached out, and there might be some opportunities in the future to maybe cross the border and play a couple private gigs. But yeah, we it taught us that it was the first time we'd really been on a tour with a band, caliber of Blackberry Smoke, and it's one of those things where you play the show, and then next thing you know, there's a couple nice little newspaper clippings about you, and some photographers are sending you pictures, and then fans start reaching out, and it was great. You could see kind of how the ball starts rolling when you get opportunities like that.
Oh yeah, that article from Montreal Rocks. We were there with our friend Annette. She was the journalist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and everyone we met through that was great. Yeah, and they wrote a beautiful article and great pictures, and that's a thing, especially for artists just starting out like us. We're always looking for content and how to, what to post on Instagram and when to post it. And then, as soon as we got onto the road, it creates the content for you. You have
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
you literally have photographers being like, here, you want a bunch of professionally shot pictures of you and the guys? So yeah, it was great. Like I said, it was surreal. And the band, I've met them before, kind of in passing, just as a fan at other shows. So it was nice to finally meet them, and to get a little feedback from them on our music, and it was great. I mean, fuck, who am I kidding? It was amazing.
So, well, I found out about Blackberry Smoke through because I listened to Outlaw Country on Sirius XM, and
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Margot Price, Lucinda Williams. Which I've seen in concert like 20 years ago, and being in Sarnia, which is like right on the border with the U.S., is that how you sort of like got into country music, being Canadian?
Well, and that's the thing. Like where we are, I would say I have a hard time in the Canadian country industry, but we kind of ride the edge of it, and I think that's the reason. Is I was spoon-fed Detroit, Michigan, pretty much since I fell on the delivery room floor, and so that's where a lot of my influences and a lot of the sound and the music comes from. But Bob Seger, Kid Rock, and Ted Nugent. There's just and Motown. That's another big thing. Just love Motown music, but not only the acts that have come out of Detroit, but the acts that come to Detroit. we're very fortunate. I'm about maybe a half hour away from Pine Knob, and we got well, it was Joe Louis Arena, but now it's a Little Caesars Arena right in downtown Detroit. So we're within an hour of one of the meccas of rock and roll in the United States. So yeah, that's had a lot to do with kind of where our sound comes from. Not so much country per se. I'm more grew up on Stevie Ray Vaughan, so that was my gateway into the Austin country scene. So I've always kind of leaned that way, and the outlaw country more so than kind of the Nashville top 40 stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny you should mention Bob Seger. With Kev, we mentioned that you do have that Bob Seger songwriting style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
which song was it?
my favorite song personally from you is "Drove." I find that any guy can relate to that. The scenario that you created in the song with the cute girl and the thought going in your mind that
you painted that picture.
you painted it.
That was one of the first songs I wrote, and I really enjoyed that tune. And it's changed a lot. Being a kind of a singer-songwriter, I think originally that song was like 7 verses, no chorus. It was just like it was more of like a Bob Dylan tune. But then I kind of got wise to, if I want any type of commercial success or that, you gotta play by the rules a little bit. So it got chopped up, and even that version that we did in Montreal was a shorter version than what we usually play, because we were we had a half hour to kind of show all of our weapons. But yeah, it's definitely one of those tunes where when you really listen to the lyrics, and that was me growing up, dating a good-looking girl and talking to the boys all day. Oh, wait, I'm going to drive her down to the lake, and who knows where this is going to go. Well, then you just end up driving around like a big tool all night, right? The guys the next day, oh, what happened? Oh, I dropped her off at 10 o'clock and went home. So that was one of those.
You can all relate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So around the same topic, I was actually on Spotify recently listening to some of your material, and I noticed that the album is by Cory James Mitchell, and the new single Blue Collar Anthem is by the Cory James Mitchell Band. So when did you start playing with the band? When did all that happen?
What happened, and that's the thing right now, we're still trying to, like the last single that came out, it's still under Cory James Mitchell. But to be honest, it's one of those things where we have, I'd have to look right now, I'm not sure, but you have your monthly followers and you have your people that are contacted. So it's really hard to start fresh right now as the Cory James Mitchell Band. So I put that single out under my name, just because we already have that audience set in. Now all the album covers and everything are Cory James Mitchell Band. But those boys, my bass player Kellan, he's been with me since day one. And actually, it's funny, I'll tell you the story. I don't think I've ever really told the story before, but I played a couple gigs here in Sarnia, maybe two opening gigs, half-hour little acoustic sets for my buddies. And then a local club owner, Stu Manchi, he gave me a good opportunity to open up for April Wine, as my third time ever performing in public. And it was great. It was one of those things where I wasn't on a patio or I wasn't in a bar. I was sitting on a stage and I had 600 people staring at me. And that was intoxicating. I had that taste of what it was like early on. And then I think 2 nights later, I was back at a patio where everyone has their back turned and yelling and screaming. And I remember thinking, no, I don't like this. I like being up on the stage and having, the lights and the eyes on you.
Yeah.
So that's where I started with that trajectory of really getting serious. And that night, their sound man, he recorded my set and then cleaned it up for me, mixed it, and did a little mastering and sent it to me and said, really liked you. If you ever need this, here's here's some little material to put online. So I put that online, and then I recorded a 4-song EP. I think I paid like $400. I went up to Brantford and recorded that at a studio. And a couple weeks later, I got a call from Sirius Radio. They named me to that year's Top of the Country competition. And I was one of 3 people that got picked from Central Canada. So it started everything off kind of with a bang. And of course they, well, we need to talk to your manager. And I was like, well, speaking, and they're like, well, okay, what about your publicist? I said, yeah, that's me too. So a lot of, the other acts are very established, and I was, literally coming out of the womb at that point. So I think they kind of, you could hear the oh shit in their voice, like they could tell. Because they said, well, what big venues have you played? And I said, oh, you know, I played the patio at this restaurant and the patio at this restaurant. And you could kind of tell in the guy's voice, he's like, oh, damn. He goes, well, you're going to need a band if you want to come up to Toronto and do this. So I lied and I said, oh, I got a band, no problem. So the next day we put a band together, and it worked out that a couple of the guys that I got, you know, were in it for the long haul and kind of had similar aspirations. So we, you know, we started smoking right from there. And then a few months later, we were in the top 2 of Boots and Hearts in all of Canada as that year's emerging country artist. And we got on with the Feldman Agency, and things have been snowballing since then. We went through some members. Like I said, we got together at necessity. So now we've kind of finally solidified the 4 guys that you would have seen in Montreal, which is myself, Kellan, Lindsay, Trevor Rogers, and Kevin Williams. But the funny thing is, the story that I was getting to that I haven't really told before is my first single, If I Could Fly Away, Be Gone. Those boys had a band already called That Dirty Racket. They played locally, did a little bit of touring, but we were in discussion. I said, let's get together and do some shows this summer. I'll, you know, take my solo act, and you guys can help me out, and we can make this kind of a full production thing. So the first music video we did, it's Cory James Mitchell featuring That Dirty Racket, and it's the 4 of us. And then ironically, 2 years later, it's turned back into the 4 of us again for the other music video. So I laugh because I say online, we're very consistent. If you look at all our music videos, it's the same members right from day one, but it just so happened that they just stood in for the first video, and then since then they've all migrated back. But we're also to the point now where, you know, before it was me writing the songs, working with a producer to get them, you know, polished to where they are. But we're now at the point, like where you heard in Montreal, the guitar that you're hearing on stage, that's what Trevor's written. You know, Kellan's writing the bass, Kevin's taking the drums. So we got a piece of the pie now. And even the new tunes that are coming out beyond this EP, and there's still 4 more songs off the EP to come out, but we got a lot of gas left in the tank, and yeah, it's going to be good. I really feel like we're just kind of finding our footing. So
awesome. And on the topic of airplay, where do you see most of your exposure coming from? Is it from streaming services or radio stations?
We got a decent little following of FM stations that are playing our stuff. Of course, they're the you know, the smaller local kind of independent radio stations.
Right.
But that's good because that's what we're tackling. Sit down and talk to a lot of people in the Canadian scene, and they're constantly pushing the big cities and the huge markets. But we're, you know, I've coined us blue collar country music. It's hard to get by saying Southern rock because we're from the North.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard saying country music because we're not cowboys. We're not, you know, we're not doing what they do down in Nashville. We're not doing what they do out west in Alberta. We're our own breed. We're blue collar workers. I grew up on my dad's oil rigs. Kevin and Trevor are process operators in Chemical Valley. Kellan's a foreman in the Carpenters Union. So, you know, our music is who we are. It's blue collar and it's honest. You know, you see a lot of guys all run into people with a cowboy hat on and you know, hey y'all, how you doing, y'all? And I think, oh shit, like where are you from, man? Oh, I'm from Burlington. I live in a 32nd floor of a condo in Burlington, Ontario. I'm like, well, what are you pretending for? You know, what's all this big act? So as far as kind of where we find ourselves, like I said, it's kind of the smaller town independent radio stations. When we were touring with Blackberry Smoke, they had stickers on a lot of the road cases, and I'd never seen that slogan before, but it was 2 country for rock, 2 rock for country. And as soon as I seen that, I thought, well, yeah, that sounds very familiar. So it's nice to see the success they've had, and knowing that we're on a similar trajectory is definitely reassuring.
Well, they've been around for quite a while. They've been around.
Yeah, it's been on 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
Something.
And that's the thing is, you look at it, you know, that's one thing that I keep telling myself. I being a barber, I talk to a lot of clients, and you know, you get those guys in. Hey, did you hear about that brand new guy that just came out, Marcus King? never heard of him before. Brand new guy. You ever heard of him, Cory? And I bring up an article from 2015 where they're saying, brand new guy just coming out. You ever heard of this guy? Marcus King's great. You know, that's what I say to people all the time. Or Blackberry Smoke's a perfect example. Last few years, they've been on fire. Yeah. But they came together in 2000. You know, so it's not it's like an iceberg, right? You see same with Chris Stapleton, you know, everyone's like, oh, this guy came out of nowhere. I'm like, no, this guy has been working his ass off for years. And that's what you see, you know. And even with us, our first year was hot. We were in all these different competitions. Things were going on. You know, stages were getting bigger and bigger, and it only took a couple months. And we kind of purposely said to ourselves, let's slow down. Let's get this train under control and get it to where we want to be. Because you see so many of these artists, they're like a flashbang, right? They go up, skyrocket, and then they hit the ground 30 times as hard. Whereas we want to take things slow, do things our way, and have some good success and longevity instead of just, you know, going for it and
build a solid foundation there.
Yeah.
Excellent. And this is a question I asked to everybody we interview, because I'm a guitar player myself. I'm a gearhead, so I would like to ask you, what sort of gear are you using? Guitars, pedals, amps? What do you like to use on the road, in the studio?
Oh, I am the opposite of a gearhead, so you're asking the wrong guy. Should have had Trevor here and the boys. They keep me in the loop. They kind of look after me like you know, like an elderly grandparent. You know, they point me in the right direction. Right now I play Telecaster. It's a Telesonic. It's a US Telecaster. They made them for a couple years. I think 2000 to maybe 2003 or 2002. But it's got double humbuckers on it. They're hand wound. I think they're DiMarzio pickups, but they're 59 Gretsch models. So it's a thick guitar, super. I think I got 12 gauge strings on it, and that's kind of my go-to. We're really trying to integrate that into our live set. Right now, I just play straight up acoustic.
Yeah.
With a very few effects on it. I'm trying to streamline our stage setup as much as possible. You know, we're playing a lot of festivals through a lot of big PA systems and that, and you just like that. The guitar I would have been playing that night in Montreal, it's one of those Cocobolo wood Taylors. Beautiful guitar, unbelievably expensive guitar, and just plays great. But when I sit down in studio with the microphone in front of it, people are blown away. But you don't recreate that on stage through your DI boxes and your PAs. So I'm still kind of wandering on this journey of figuring out the best thing to play. And we all play through Blues Juniors.
I used to. Nice.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's the thing. They're nice. They're small. You can find that breaking point, exactly, and then mic it, and then it can fill any room. And we were like early on when we were playing a lot of big festivals, you know, even Boots and Hearts. That was the biggest stage I've ever seen in my entire life, let alone be standing on it. And that's what everyone's playing through. A little 15-watt Blues Junior, mic'd up, and then it comes through the PA, you know, to perfection. And yeah, mainly Trevor's a big Les Paul guy. He's a big Gibson 330 guy. And Kellan's got I don't even know. I don't know what bass player.
Making music, like the music scene is very different than from the 70s and the 80s. I was going to already mention the April Wine that you mentioned. You played with them. That was August 2019, I saw. And did you get a chance to talk to Miles Goodwin about the music or anything about the?
I've got to play with them about. I think we got to play with them about 4 times. So got to know them and their crew a little bit. Every time I chat with him or most of the guys, I try not to talk music. We just, you know, kind of shoot the breeze backstage and keep things light. I always find that's what guys like best. I remember. I would have been a couple years ago. I opened up for Big Sugar, and so I invited them all in to the barber shop for haircuts and that, because I know it's like being out on the road. So they all, you know, they were very pleased to get a little bit of TLC and get their hair cleaned up. And that's one thing that, you know, I made an effort when Mr. Johnson was in my chair. I didn't talk music. You could tell he was kind of, you know, tight-shouldered and thinking like, oh God, here we go. And right on my lips, you know, was the classic, could you give me any advice for an up-and-coming musician, please? Blah, blah, blah. But I broke the tension. I was like, "You live down in Texas, don't you?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, there's a lot of big fucking snakes down there, isn't there?" And he just started chuckling. You could see the tension go to shoulders, and then we just shot the shit. And then at the end of it, he said, "Let's grab a picture together." So it was nice. I find that you really, if you want to work a lot of those guys in, I just stay away from the music and just shoot the breeze, and that's when the guys really open up. As for Miles Goodwin, actually, it's funny, when we played with him at the CNE, they were looking over some of our gear, and I don't even know what kind of, I think it's a Bassmaster or something, but my bass player has an old Fender amp, and he hadn't seen one in years, so he was all over that, and those guys were talking shop, but I just usually keep it lighthearted. But what a great band. Like I said, we've got the chance to open up about 4 times for them, and the crowds they draw is insane, and the way those guys can bring it, it's incredible. Especially, I think it was the 50th anniversary tour that they were doing last year, and we played, and those guys hit harder than anybody going today.
I've seen them when I was 13. I'm 52 now. I saw them when I was 13 years old the first time. I've seen them in a big stadium. I've seen them in a little club right near my house. And they'll blow everybody away regardless of the size of the crowd.
His voice is still perfect.
Yeah, he's in great shape still, Miles,
Oh yeah, his voice is incredible. That's why I said it sounds like he's still in his mid-30s, because but there again, that's a singer-songwriter. Like, he always wrote for himself, right? Yeah. So even as the songs mature and as his voice mature, they still, they still sound great.
Yeah. And I know through the pandemic, it's been tough for bands. What are your plans after the pandemic? What do you guys want to do
once all of this is over?
Yeah, it's been weird for us. Even the single coming out was a weird time. A lot of, societies really split. A lot of people have a lot of very serious issues going on, a lot of social issues right now. And it's tough. Music is very important, but at the same time, lots of things are important. And especially right now with the current environment. So we're just, we're kind of feeling it out. And I'm glad we put the music out when we did. And this Wednesday, the music video for our new single, Blue Collared Anthem, it's coming out, and I think it'll be a good time for that. And then we're hoping to release another single before the end of the summer. But after this, right now, where we just, stage 3 was yesterday, which means that restaurants can open back up, limited capacity, and a few more things can happen. But we're still just playing it real safe and kind of feeling out what people are comfortable with. I'd like to get back on stage soon, just especially in our area. I'd like to be one of the first people that's back on stage before it becomes kind of old hat. But in saying that, we just, I really want to reach out to the community and see what people are going to be comfortable with and what's available, because, you really have to respect how people are feeling. And there's a lot of unknowns out there. But, a lot of people are on edge. My boss, we just celebrated 50 years in business at the barbershop that I work at. And unfortunately, it's Franco's barbershop. Him and his wife have owned it for 50 years. And his wife, Antoinetta, she passed away from COVID-19. So we were hit really hard with it. And that's one of those things. Like, there was a gentleman in yesterday getting his haircut, and he thanked us for all the safety measures, because he said, my wife's at home with cancer right now, and we're scared. Like, she's scared for her life. It's a real thing. Like, that woman is petrified that she might pass away, and you can't, you can't scoff at things like that. So we're being mindful, and it'll come back when it comes back. I mean, we're lucky. That's one thing is, the last couple of years I've been chomping away, and I'm like, man, if we could get a record deal, oh boy, like, that's all we need. We need one good deal. Well, if we had a record deal, we'd be up shit creek right now.
That's right.
We all, kind of the industry, and that's why we went ahead with the single, and kind of been pushing forward because we're working men. We play our music and take time off to do that and go on tours, but when we get back home, we've got back home at 3-4 in the morning and been to work at 8 o'clock that day, and that's just what you got to do. So we feel like we're at a good place right now, and kind of the music industry has been brought kind of closer to our level where everyone's scrounging, surviving, but that's kind of where that's where we work on our constant. So yeah, when things come back up, they'll come back up, and like I said, we're not gonna force it, but we'll wait and test the waters. The Blackberry Smoke shows, they're rescheduled for November, but I doubt the border will be open. So at this point, we're just you guys know as much as we know. And
yeah, I mean, if whoever we're speaking to, like whoever we're interviewing, they're in this. Everybody's in the same boat. We've interviewed jazz artists, we've interviewed heavy metal artists, and they said records that came out during the pandemic
have not been successful.
Have not been doing well.
No, and that's like the thing for us. Like, we wanted to put out a single, and it's got some good success, but you just need to keep putting out content, right? Like it's been a couple years since our last release. We did a release for a local charity. We did a single last year, and that was a great project, but it was kind of a side project from what we had planned. So it's been a couple years since we got to put out our music, and we just, we needed something to talk about. So even if the single got 0 streams, it was still nice to go through the motions and do it. Now, like I said, we've been grateful that it has been half decently successful, but we're also at the stage where we have to measure success in things like this, like, having this opportunity to come out and to be able to talk to your fan base and have you guys be able to, put this platform up for my fan base. This makes it all worth it, right? And having,
Absolutely.
and just to stay current.
And I'm sure you realize it's very important to go to the south of the border to promote your music, because I actually believe that a song like Drove or something, I could hear it on country music in the States for sure. I mean, it would compete with anything that's out there now, easily.
Well, and the border's locked down pretty tight, so there's kind of no going back and forth right now. But that is, being so close to Michigan, that's one thing that we always have in the back of our mind. We'd love to expand. We'd love to play down in the States. While doing this EP, the producer I worked with, Mark Shore, great guy, good friend of mine, but it was always the joke, can you pronounce that a little more Canadian? Can you say that line a little more Canadian? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you sound very American. And so my response would be, well, whatever the American knob is, turn that up to about 11 or 12, because that's what we want to sound. When people say you sound like a very American band, I get the biggest smile on my face. I feel, well, that's, I love Canadian music. Don't get me wrong. Sam Roberts band, Gordon Lightfoot, huge Gordon Lightfoot fan. Brian Adams, lots of great music coming to this country. But
But you sound like Steve Earle.
There you go. I love Steve Earle. Yeah, I love Steve Earle. I mean, that's just, I grew up, like I said, up on Detroit radio, and I'm a Michigan boy at heart. So
yeah, no, don't change a thing. It sounds amazing.
No, thank you, appreciate it.
And so, do you have anything you'd like to tell our fans or
people listening to this?
Just pump out again. Kind of at the stage where we are, the biggest thing for us is just growing our numbers, and if you want to head over to it's at Cory James Mitchell Band on Facebook and Instagram. That always helps, just driving those numbers up. And like I said, this Wednesday, June 29th, it usually comes out on Friday, but we thought we'd try something different, COVID, so there's no rules. So we're gonna throw it down on a Wednesday, but Wednesday, July 29th, the new video is going to be coming out on Facebook and on YouTube. So head over to that. And again, it's www.coreyjamesmitchellband.com. And that's where we kind of keep everyone up to speed on what's going on. But yeah, stream the new single. It's on Spotify everywhere. It's called Blue Collar Anthem. And I will say one thing to your audience, since you're based out of Montreal, it was great being in your city. And we definitely want to come back to Quebec as fast as we can, because we had the night of our lives.
Perfect.
And you guys have really good Domino's pizza too. We got good Domino's here in Ontario, but that Domino's in Montreal it was real nice. And it's funny because we were behind the alleyway, sitting in the van at the Corona Theater, and that's my guitar player. He's like, "You think we could get a pizza delivered to the alleyway behind this theater?" I said, "Oh, I know one place that'll deliver." And yeah, sure enough, 20 minutes later, the old Domino's car was there. So
did you know that we love pizza? Is that what
what's that?
You know that pizza is our favorite food?
Is it?
It's in our description
Yeah, it's in
of
our
the podcast.
link in our bio.
Yeah. That's what we're.
There you go. It's mine too. I don't go anywhere
I
without,
eat every day.
grabbing a pie.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Cory. We appreciate it. We're going to keep tabs on what's happening with you and the band. And for sure, we'd love to have you back on the show. And maybe, hopefully, we could do it in person as well, you know?
Yeah, for sure. As I say, reach out, guys, and let's keep in touch. And whenever we're in the area, we'll get together for a pint. And
For sure.
yeah, this has been great. So let's do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Nice meeting you, man.
Very nice meeting
Thanks for
you.
doing this.
Take care.
Thanks again, boys.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Bye-bye.